Good afternoon, good morning. We are on live. So welcome to our last episode of our web series dedicated to training and media proposed by LGM Digital. So it's the 7th episode on the series of 7. And this episode is called You'll Never Forget. So I'm Gilles Baudou. I'm a training technical manager from LGM Group, from our Directorate of Technical Innovation. And today I'm presenting this episode
with Nicolas. So I'm also in our Directorate of Innovation as a digital technical manager. And I'm also playing the role of our LGM Academy manager, which is making all our off-the-shelf modules for our customers.
So first of all, a small recall about our approach, our methodology. So our training approach is based on mastering of the full chain from end to end of the training program. So based on the ADDIE model. Based on 5 phases. First phase is the analysis phase, where we will define the training stakes according to the operational context and the main goal of the training program. The second phase is the design phase, where we will determine the learning objectives and select the appropriate training media. The third phase, the development phase. During that phase, we will produce the training material and other training supports. The fourth phase is the implementation phase. It's during that phase that we will conduct the training, that we will transfer the knowledge and the skills to the learners. And the last phase is the evaluation phase. During that phase, we will focus on the training quality assessment and check that the training was efficient and successful. This episode is dedicated to the implementation and evaluation phase. So Nicolas, I'll let you continue with the implementation phase.
So let's start with implementation. So as Gilles just said, the purpose of the implementation phase is to put the knowledge available for the learners. So we have 3 main scenarios that of course can be combined. The first one is when the training is made by the training designer itself, meaning the guys that have put the analysis, design, development phase. So for him, it's quite easy. He has directly the ability to conduct the class. Then we have the instructor-led training, meaning that we have an intermediate between the training designer and the public, the audience, that we have to train. And finally, we have the distant learning, which we have put autonomous, because of course, every digital distant content is of course guided. For example, within an LMS, you have a specific path to follow to get your contents. So these 3 scenarios generally covers the 3 main pillars, the 3 main points. First, we have to train the instructors. So we have the learning objectives that they should know, the activities, the training activities that are conducted into the session, as well as the medias, of course, and the assessment materials, which of course enable the teachers to assess the learners. Then we have the preparation of the learners. In this phase, the idea is basically to be sure that the learners have the appropriate level before getting into the training session. So we have the prerequisites, of course. We have all the tools required for the training. It can be a technical tool which is specific to the business training, but it can also be, for example, an LMS or a virtual classroom. And finally, we have the orientation, both physical, for example, the place of the room in a building, or in virtual, meaning the pre-recording or the specific path that you have to follow within LMS or dedicated training software. And finally, last point, the learning space management. So we have also both the physical and virtual space. The physical space is basically the room and all the equipment that are within the room. So the TV if required, the chair, the tables, etc. And we have also the virtual place. For example, all the licenses, all the computers that might be required, the distance access that can be required. And there's also in this learning management space the activities of managing in configuration all the contents which will then be given within the course. So maybe it's already known by most of you, but maybe not for all. So what is a learning management system? So basically, an LMS is a software which enables learners to access and to consult the different courses. This is the primary function. Of course, these different courses have been created and managed by trainers, instructor, or training administrators. Of course, they can also within this LMS, both the trainer, instructors, and training administrator manage the training courses and session, the physical session. For example, when there are practice within using simulators within the classroom, with practical session, for example, in the workshop, directly on the system or on the material, and several specific evaluation, for example, physiological data with specific tests. Some LMS also get the features of having social learning with chats, dedicated events and forums, and also tutoring to better face the accompaniments. We have also the ability to connect the e-learning modules. Some LMS have already authoring tools which are embedded within the software. And there's also a learning library, which is often exterior to the LMS, which is a content management software with all the procedures, digital documents, media that are going to be tracked in configuration, managed into configuration, and related with the data source to emit some alerts when they are going to evolve. And Jill will show an example of a tool at the end of this presentation. Last main pillar is the results. Of course, all these media, these tests, e-learning modules, and this face-to-face session are producing results that are going to be stored into the LRS for learning record storage, which will provide some synthetic vision of the progression of all the learners within a specific course or in the several courses, and also give some feedback and some data to evaluate the training quality, both in terms of training path that the media that are in the session, that are used in the session. And finally, we have IT profiles that are going to manage the rights and the profile within the LMS. And that's it for the LMS. So you have here a few screenshots that we have about our own LMS, which is called Skills Up. So we have our home screen there. There it's the dashboard. Yeah, you can go. Okay, with the dashboard. So you have some modules that I'm currently doing in the bottom of the screen, and the courses that I've recently consulted in the upper hands, and at the right hand of the picture you have all the, let's say, calendar vision of the modules that I'm going to follow in the following months. Here is the IT vision of the administrator. So you have all the roles on the left side, all the description, and on the right you have all the, let's say, all the rights attributed to these different roles. And finally, this is a view of a result. So we have just extracted for specific modules the final evaluation, and we have a graph representing the number of learners within scales of marks. Second, other tool which is more and more used within the training space is the virtual classroom software. So why do we use it? Well, the reasons are quite obvious. So first, to reduce the costs, to reduce the time spent into travel for a sanitary reason, for example, with the crisis that we're living today. And we also have, let's say, the global driver, because more and more companies have their employees split everywhere into the globe, and it's of course very, very easy to have this session done virtually. But there is also pedagogical reasons of using virtual classroom software, because human beings are directly, let's say, led by solar hours. So you have the curve of biological waking of the human being, and the training sessions that we are conducting are often between 8 hours and 5 hours of the afternoon. And the two main peak of awareness are, let's say, freezed by a curve of stress, which is led mainly by the travel before and after getting through a training phase. So this is the reason why having virtual classroom suppress this stress linked to travel, and enables us to create shorter sessions that will, of course, generate pedagogical efficiency. So here is an example of a tool that we are using. We are using two virtual classroom software today. So maybe Jill, you can just show all the features. I will just comment one or two of them. So you have within the virtual classroom a lot of features that are quite interesting. For example, the quiz, the poll, the whiteboard that create some interaction with this virtual session. You have the ability to have the pedagogical scripting, which is directly done into the software. You have the ability to manage the flow of a video and of speech. And you have also the ability to create different groups and subgroups in which people are going to work individually or split in small groups. And you have also the ability to take control of a distant computer and to give the access of a learner to your own computer with, of course, an acceptance from your side, which is very, very interesting for software-based learning. That's it for this part. So how did we do finally our virtual classroom session and choices? So we have followed this process. First, we have made, of course, our own benchmark. Then we have selected two distinct solutions because we really wanted to have, let's say, a solution in case of an IT incompatibility. We have created a testing protocol, which helps us because we have both a use for, let's say, intra LGM and then with our customers. So we wanted to have, let's say, a degree of freedom. Then we have created our own module, our own training module for our LGM trainers, so that they just take in hand the software and, of course, the pedagogical differences between creating a physical session and a virtual classroom session. And finally, we have created expert support intervention every time the trainers are making their first session, so that the risky phases are well managed. Last, so because in training in our other business areas, we have seen that there are critical knowledge. We have created all along time more and more modules related to our own business. And this has become our LGM Academy today. So this LGM Academy is roughly 70 modules composed, roughly 100 sessions every year, with more than 600 trainees every year. So this is just for our customers. It is almost the double these figures if we take into account our own personal. And because this is the topic of this webinar, here is the 7 modules that we have created for the training. So we have training engineering, mainly for the training architects. We have training of the trainers program for both our technical experts and the technical experts of our customers that are going to make some training activities. We have the training of the discovery learning, the digital learning means for all the training architects and trainers that requires to have an overview of all the pedagogical means in the markets. And then we have two very widely used and very efficient tools, Camtasia, which produce video learning content, and Storyline, which is creating e-learning content. And finally, we have the ASD F6000 specifications that Gilles has commented all along the third webinar. And then you go through the evaluation with Gilles.
Yes, thank you, Nicolas. So after this implementation phase comes the evaluation phase. At LGM, we use the Donald Kirkpatrick model for the evaluation phase. And this model is based on 4 levels of evaluation. The first level is the reaction level. It will assess the learner satisfaction. I think you know this level. You attended to courses probably where at the end you got a formula that you have to fill and to give your comments, to give your rating about the quality of the course. Like for example, the quality of the delivery, the quality of the training material, was the infrastructure appropriate to give the course, was there enough practice, was the instructor considered as an expert in his domain. So we can say that it's a kind of it's a trip advisor of the training. That's the first level. The second level is the verification of the knowledge and skills acquisition. That's something that we that we all experience in the academic world. During our education, we had to pass exams, tests in different forms, like orally or practical tests and so on. So this level is the second level, and we'll check the learning. The third level is the assessment of the influence of the training on the learner's behavior. This stage will come 3 months or 6 months after the training, and it will check if the learners they apply what they have learned during the previously followed course, if they apply this in their day-to-day job, in their day-to-day situation. That's not so common to practice this level of evaluation, but it's quite interesting just to see that after if the training objectives they were appropriate, they were relevant for the learner's situation. At LGM, for example, we submit a formula 3 months or 6 months after the training in order to assess this third level. The last level, the fourth level, is the results, assessing the structural or organizational impact of the training. Thanks to KPIs, key performance indicator, we will see if the training has an influence, a positive or negative influence on the organization. I will come with some examples to illustrate this level afterwards. It's during that level that we can check the ROI, the return on investment of a training course. Now let's focus on the different levels a bit more. So the satisfaction level, we talked about it, the TripAdvisor of the training. That's quite easy to understand. Now let's focus on the second stage, the learning level. how to assess the learning and how we can select the items, the subjects we want to evaluate. In our approach, we use the difficulty, criticality, frequency model. As you will see, we use this. As you can see on the slide, we have a tree that will support us to select the items that we will submit to evaluation. I'll let you explain. For example, if we have a learning objectives related to a task, we will assess if this task is difficult, critical, and frequent, low frequency, medium, or high frequency. Depending on the path we follow, we will find a result at the bottom of the tree, and the result will be low training, standard training, or overtraining. So we will emphasize in the evaluation. We will prioritize in the evaluation the learning objectives which are related to an overtraining, to a task which required overtraining. For this, we need a good design. We need a good design phase. We need to perform training design. And to help us in the training design, we have developed a specific tool that I will show you some HMI after this chapter about evaluation. Now let's focus on the fourth stage, the return on investment. How can we check this? So as I said, we can use a KPI, key performance indicators. So for example, if we have trained workers on the use of a production chain in a factory, we will assess afterwards if the training resulted in an increase of the quality. So we check the KPI before the training, for example, the quality reports of the last year before the training, and then 6 months or 1 year after the training, we check if there is an improvement in the quality. Second example, if we conduct a safety training about safety at work on the working site, we can see afterwards, let's say 6 months after, if there is a decrease in the working accidents or injuries related to work. A third example, let's consider a maintenance workshop of military vehicles. We can check if after the training of the maintainers on the long term, if it results on an increase of the availability of the vehicles, of the vehicle pool. So we have seen that we can put in place some KPIs, key performance indicator, to assess the return on investment of the training. But that's not the only way to make sure that we have a return on investment. The return on investment will also depend on the cost of the training. Of course, as much as you reduce the cost, you can have a better result in regards of return on investment. That's simply mathematics. So a way to reduce the cost of the training courses is to use the training engineering methodology that we have explained. So the analysis and design activities of a training program will help to reduce this cost. For example, by training engineering, we can be exhaustive in covering the training needs. It means that we will have the just level of information delivered to the learners. Also, we will have a rationale, so we will justify the learning objectives and the selection of media. So having a custom-made, a tailored solution, really adequate, appropriate, and relevant for the learners and also for the operational context. Thanks to this roles and task analysis of the task analysis, we have a consistency between the training plan and the operational context, and that ensures that the learners will be more engage, will feel more involved in the training, and so that can improve the training results. Also, thanks to the design phase, we have an optimization of the development phase because we have specified all training material before we start the development. And also, thanks to our training analysis and training design phase, we can identify the reuse of the training material between different roles, between the different training paths. And last but not least, with our methodology, we can link the technical documentation with the training material. So meaning that we can identify, and I will show you that in the training designer tool, we can link we can link the data source to the training material, and so we can ensure a configuration management of the training material. So, as I said, this training engineering is important to reduce the cost, to have a performant training program. So at LGM, we decided to develop a tool called Training Designer to support this training engineering with a robust methodology and through a user-friendly tool. This tool is actually under development, so it's a prototype, and I will show you some HMIs of this tool. First of all, the data management. As I said, it's important to identify all source data that we use to create our training material, but also to have a link between this training material and the source data. So let's take, for example, if we have maintenance procedures that is the source that will serve to create a training material. If this procedures evolves, if there is an update in these procedures, we know exactly the impact on the training material. So we don't have to review all the training material. We know exactly where we have to update whatever the training material, if it's a PowerPoint, if it's a practical exercise sheet, if it's a video or a virtual reality module, we know exactly where to go for the update. So our tool, it integrates a virtual library that manages all training material, that manage all data sources, and that make the links between the two. Another important point of the training engineering, so to have an efficient training, to justify the learning objective, is to make a job and task analysis. That's also foreseen in some functionalities of our training design. Our training designer will help also to define the learning objectives with the application of the Bloom taxonomy, with the allocation of the different level, as we have seen, difficulty, criticality, and frequency. So to make a prioritization of the learning objectives and of the evaluation. And also we can allocate same learning objective to different roles. So making sure that we will develop only one time a module that will be used in different training paths. Another functions of our training designer is the structuring of the training paths and management of those training paths. So you can see here that we have displayed 4 roles with the different parts of those roles. So we can see that we have common lessons of common modules, that we have here a module that is planned to be conducted for those 3 roles. We have here a lesson that is only dedicated, which is specific for this role, that will allow a better planning, a better use of the resources, an optimization of the training time. So it will result also in an increase on the return of investment. A last HMI I'm going to show you is the training plan edition and management with a blended learning approach. You can see here that we have the structure of the lesson with the learning objectives of the lesson. And for learning objectives, we can allocate different training material. Like, for example, here, an instructor-led course, an interactive quiz, and a virtual reality module. So we can manage different learning needs, different media, to cover the same learning objectives. So that was a presentation of our tool. That this tool is under development. We think that we will have the first version around mid-2021. So this will be a real improvement. Also, this tool will be in line with the S6000T specification. It's important to mention it because as this S6000T specification just arrived in service engineering, in integrated logistics support matters, we will develop our tools to be in line with this specification. So now we will just, with Nicolas, we will recall the key messages that we have seen during this web series. As maybe you remember during the first episode, we talk more about the methodology, about the ADDIE phasing. I will not come back too much on that as I already recalled it on the beginning of this episode, but recall also that this methodology ensures a mastering of all stages of a training program, and also allows to answer specific challenges of we have today, like for example an increase in the turnover of the people, experts which are more and more required for different tasks, and so on. During the second episode, we focused on the pedagogical engineering with the details about the different steps of training engineering. So, to make it short, task, roles, activities. Roles and task analysis, identification of the target population, and identification of the different operational constraints and the organizational context. Then we have, thanks to all those data collected during the analysis phase, during the design phase, we mainly develop the learning objectives and we select the adequate media and learning methods. We have seen that all this activity, all this let's say all the work that we have performed during analysis and design phase will be summarized in a training plan. We have also demonstrated our tool to support the media selection. So we have today a very large panel of media, and thanks to our tool, we can select, we can support the selection of this media depending on the parameters of a training program, depending of some specifics of learning objectives. We can take decision on which media is more adequate to a learning objectives or to a training program. During the third episode, we focused on the S6000T specification. As I said, is the last training engineering standards. It includes a data model that ensures all stakeholders to understand what was developed during a training program and how we can update easily this training program.
Thank you, Gilles. Let's go now through the development phase on which we have focused 3 episodes. So the first one, customization ahead, provides us these key messages. First, storyboarding is really essential. This is a key factor to reduce the cost and the number of iteration within a blended learning creation project. You can use and you must abuse of digital blended learning, meaning using your digital modules combined with several medias to increase interactivity and to better have the attention of the learners. Of course, it is applicable to face-to-face media. We really thought about PowerPoint. You can, of course, embed some of the media's video 3D within your PowerPoints. And finally, a tips that we provide at the end of this episode was, if you have already partners, feel free to ask them to provide you work units of media so that when they are doing quotation for you, For example, if they put 7,000 euros of medias, and of course at the beginning you just have an idea of the pedagogical, let's say, good repartition of the media. And when you are doing the real conception, when the project starts, maybe you should see that this is not the appropriate repartition. And having this work units enables to revamp the media according to what you have discovered. The fifth episode was about handling immersion, so immersive learning. We have studied, analyzed the three pedagogical modalities, which are augmented reality, virtual reality, and virtual tours. We have seen that the SWE media provides maximum pedagogical effectiveness, but for appropriate cases. And if we do not use it for the appropriate cases, this is just not relevant at all. So the tips that we provide at this episode was to ask for your partners or your suppliers to give you the justification and to help you in the ROI calculation, so that you are really sure and you are not, let's say, in the wave of your supplier, which is, for example, only producing virtual reality, and that will, of course, provide you virtual reality and not something else. We have getting back through the difference between virtual reality and virtual tour, because for marketing reasons, some people call virtual tour as virtual reality. And we have set a specific example of ROI calculation and justification based on a virtual reality module. Finally, the sixth episode that has been taken last week was the methodologies that we have developed to create faster and cheaper digital modules, based on the fact that you, customer, can create your own conception of the modules if you accept to follow a model with a process, and if you don't want an ultra-specific module, which of course will reduce a cost that is often reduced in our mind, which is the conception parts, which can raise up to 70% of the work. And finally, today, we have seen the two last phases, so the implementation with the three main parts. So I just remind you this part. The first was to train the trainers, the instructor, then to prepare the learners and to manage your learning space. We have just make a short travel through the learning management software and virtual classroom. And then we are getting through the evaluation with a specific path provided by Gilles. So the analysis part, which provides you the justification of the KPI, and then the design and the DIF methodology that give you where and on what knowledge you must put your assessments, your tests. And all this computed with the slide of the numerous advantages of doing the pedagogical engineering. For example, winning money on the reuse, and of course on the configuration management of your media, because all of this will provide you significant time reduction and cost savings.
So to conclude this web series, we would like to talk about two nice references we have at LGM. The first one is the ACS LOC1 project. ACS stands for Air Command and Control System, so LOC1 first level of capability. We are involved in this program since 15 years now. This program is the development and deployment, so of a air defense control system, air command, air military control system. It is bought by NATO and it involves 15 nations in total. This program, this system is very complex, including a lot of functionalities, including a communication system with different radio, with phones lines, secure, non-secure, with integration of data links, of radars, having a capability to control aircraft, to make surveillance, air surveillance operations, to plan air missions and so on. So as you can understand, it's it was a very complex program involving, so for us, the training of the operators like air defense controller, air surveillance operator, mission planners, and so on, involving also the training of the technicians. Today, we have trained 1,700 learners in total. So, as I said, with many different roles and in various learners' profile. As you can imagine, we do not train Portuguese military as we train French military, and we do not train Norwegian as we train Turkish military. This program was very interesting for us because we covered the full scope of ADI, so analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. We covered all phases. So an end-to-end, we provided an end-to-end solution to our customer. And also it was a blended learning approach. As you can figure out, with so many roles, we had to develop more technical trainings with theory about the architecture, about the functionalities of the system, but we had also, for the technical side, we had to develop a lot of practical exercises, troubleshooting, remove and replace activity, and so on. And on the operator side, we had to use the simulation, the embedded simulation, to develop scenario starting from peacetime going to wartime. So very complex scenario, presenting a complex air situation to train the operators on all the functionalities provided by the system. Yeah, that's all for AXLOC 1. I think you understood that it was a very challenging program and very interesting. It's still going on. We still have 8 instructors and a training engineering team working on this program.
The second references that we have chosen was the activities of producing, designing medias for 3 industrial of the French industry, which are providing this EV armored vehicle named Scorpion. So what we have done on this specific Scorpion program was first to cover the end of the design phase, meaning taking all the, let's say, training plan and justification analysis with the 3 companies, and creating and providing solutions to these 3 industrials with new ways of providing and transmitting information. For example, we mainly have PowerPoints as entry data. For example, for an inspection tour that we made, we had 200 slides PowerPoints, and we have chosen to create an e-learning with a virtual tour embedded, which is guided all through the module, which provide a contextual experience of the inspection tour, getting through point by point, which of course enables, let's say, a lower cognitive charge with, let's say, a better attention all through the module because it's quite more attractive. We have created 3D animation, we have created e-learning with embedded media, 3D infographics, and other 3D application, all along with the idea of producing a media service center for these 3 companies, with the conceal aspects in the design when they were providing us their draft support and their first knowledge analysis. Well, that's it. I mean,
yes.
Yes. So we are at the very end of this presentation. What we're going to do before concluding, because we are not seeing any question, we are just taking the question we had this morning within the Friends session to give you the information related to the question that we had. I think the first one, Gilles, that we had was about the LMS. How do you choose between COTS LMS, off-the-shelf software, or how do you choose, let's say, your own specific developments, or how do you choose, let's say, the mid solution with developing on an existing open source solution?
Yes, that was it's an interesting question. Actually, at LGM we have made a benchmark of the different LMS solution. We make an analysis of the market and we try to understand what were the different functionalities of the different solutions proposed. So we have a quite good knowledge of the different main LMS which are proposed today on the market. There are a lot, so we were not able to assess all, but the main one, the most known, we have a good idea. So that's something on which we can provide an advice. We can provide recommendations on the choosing of an LMS. But at LGM, for us and also for some of our customers, we have proposed a Moodle. Moodle is an open source solution which answers all needs, all basic functions of an LMS. And it's as it is open source by definition, it's free and it's configurable. It's can be developed also as we need it. So it can be a really custom-made solution. I explain also, I want to precise the point why we choose this Moodle LMS. Is because, as you have seen, we are also developing a training designer tool. At the end of this, the process of this tool, at a stage in the process of this tool, we develop training plans. And we chose Moodle for LMS to be in communication with this training designer. So we will develop a functionality that will allow to export directly a training plan from the training designer into a Moodle. And so to have a direct communication between those tools, which is very nice because everything you have created during your design phase can be directly integrated as a training path into an LMS.
Yeah.
Yes. Another question regarding the training designer was to know if we can link different data sources, the same data sources, to several training. Yes, the answer is yes, of course. That's the aim of the virtual library, is to have central management of the data sources and to link them to wherever it is used. So the tool it will provide, okay, we have a data source, where it is used in the training materials, can be one, can be some, and what will be also powerful in this tool is that if you have if the data source is a modular documentation, like for example in a S1000D format, you can have a fixed reference on every module of this data source. It means that a very small part of the data source is identified as the source of a training material. And that will allow a perfect communication between the training material and the data sources. There is another question, Nicolas?
Yeah, there was two other. First was about our choice for the virtual classroom. So what did we choose and why? So the answer was we choose these two solutions, which were Adobe Connect and Classilio, because they were offering us a lot of flexibility, a very good ergonomy, and also the ability to take control or give control of students to our own computer, which were very interesting for software-based training. And the final question was about specific cases, technical cases of computation of ROI. We provided the example of the references I just presented before, for which we had an example of the inspection tour, on which we have chosen to follow the KPI of errors that should have been avoided and detected with the inspection tour. And these figures, after having set it in place, this inspection tour module, were reduced by roughly 15%. Another example was the presentation of the HMI interface of this EV armored vehicle also. Before, as it was quite complicated, it often led to, let's say, bad succession of comments, which were recorded within the internal software. It was quite easy to follow, and we have a recorded decrease of 30% of these malfunctions. We didn't have the related figures, but to our estimates, both of these figures were paid back for 2 or 3 times the cost of developing the training materials. And these were the questions that we had this morning.
Yes, great. I think we are coming to the end of this web series and of this episode. I really would like to thank you for your participation, for your interest into this web series. Personally, it was a real pleasure and a real good first experience to lead and to manage, to be a participant into this web series. So thank you very much. Bye bye. I'll let the final word to Nicolas.
Well, it's quite the same. We were very happy to have you all along this web series. It was also really nice for us, a very good exercise for us. We hope to have further discussions with you on one or several topics open all along these 7 webinars, and we wish you a very good day and a good continuation for your training exercise to come.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.